So we're at FabTech 2023. Here we are with Futura Automation, and they're going to kind of explain their seam tracking system that they offer. They're a distributor of seam tracking system. Go ahead and give us the rundown.
All right, so what we have here is a device named Garmo, and it is a laser seam tracker, and it follows the seam and tracks the X and Z parameters. It also tracks the gap size, and it's feeding real-time data to the robot to basically guide and modify the path of the robot as it goes. It's configurable up to, we have 20 built-in seams to configure. When you choose your seam, that might be a butt seam or a fillet or a lap seam, you give it you tell the sensor the geometry of that seam, and then you also establish some limits of what you're willing to accept, right? Okay. So, and then when it goes outside of those limits, it basically does a lost seam, and then your robot will react, right? Gotcha. One of the benefits, especially in the Cobot land that we've found, is it actually reduces robot programming, right? So effectively, you'll see the robot come to a fixed point, yep, and that's the only point you need to program.
Right.
You put another point out here in random space, but once the robot finds the beginning of the seam, yeah, it's going to guide the robot along that seam no matter what direction it needs to go.
Yeah.
Right?
You essentially just need like a start and a stop point.
Exactly, exactly. It's laser, and so it's immune to ambient light, it's immune to the arc weld. It's also immune to laser weld, right? Because it's in a different bandwidth. Right. Okay. It can also be used for dispensing. Okay, so you have a robot that might be dispensing, adhesives or sealants. Right. We actually are tracking this window frame. We're tracking the outside seam for a dispensing robot. Okay. We can also do, we can follow an edge and do deburring. Okay. Right.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So,
and one of the other things that you said that this does, it does like an adaptive weaving.
Correct. So that's mostly a function of the Fanuc robot adaptive weaving, but the adaptive weaving in the robot is following the gap distance. Okay. Right. So as the gap distance grows and shrinks, the robot will adapt the weaving as it goes, and you set your parameters how far outside you want to weave. Right. Right. Yep. And that all happens real time.
Gotcha. So a system like this, I would assume it's kind of the best fit for a end user that is maybe welding a little bit bigger items.
Yes, if you have a tightly fixtured, piece and small welds where you have to go down inside, obviously physically it's not going to fit. Right. So it won't change the pose of the robot. So if you have a flat piece where the pose is consistent, is ideal. If you have a point where you need to change the pose, you need to program that point so that the robot will change the pose, and then you start again.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
It's air-cooled, right? So air port is in here. It cools the device. The exit of the air also then forms a air curtain in front of the lens.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Right? So it's keeping the arc splash away from the face. It also has a changeable screen.
Lens. Oh, nice.
Right, so you get a package of these when you buy a sensor. You can keep buying them and then change these out as needed for your process.
Very good. Yeah, I think overall, like, the system's a really good system to get people up and going more quickly.
Yes.
You implement something like this, and it also just like helps long term with like defects and.
Well, the biggest thing is you don't have to worry about hard programming a path. That's the biggest thing is you tell it, you define the seam and you tell it where you want to track, and it will do that every time.
Right. Yeah, so effectively, like, if you have one of your more skilled programmers or skilled welders set up your first initial weld, you can then have an operator just do the fine touch-up of this is the path I want to weld.
Exactly, and to take it even a step further, since this is a Cobot, I can put this Cobot in hand guide. Operator can bring the Cobot over here to my start point, wherever it might be, and say go, and you're done. And the robot will start welding, and it'll follow the path.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge opportunity in the market to utilize systems like this to just more easily be able to weld new product numbers, and weld them effectively, and also just with higher quality. without using like seam tracking, it's easy for somebody to place the metals in there, crooked, and now your weld feed is just, it's not in a line, it's crooked.
Yep. So actually, I'm just going to throw in another little cherry on top of this whole thing, right? Yes, we can find the seam, but we have to have a fairly limited space we have to start from.
Okay.
We're putting a 3D vision system over the top of this. This part can be anywhere within a large region. That vision system will find the start point for you. So now the start point can be dynamic. I don't care where it's at. I don't have to hard code a start point or an end point. The 3D vision system will say you need to start here, end here. We go to the start point, we find the seam, and we track towards that end point.
Very
right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing
bet.
this valuable information with us.
You bet. Thank you.